Got it.
Okay. The second company is company named AR Service Arvis. Here is Alexander. Alexander, hello.
Hello.
And
Hi,
the CEO,
Alexander.
yes, and the second founder is Stanislav. Stanislav, you've got your camera on?
No. Hello, please. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, the third company is Tutun Fitness, and the CEO and founder Grigori. Grigori, hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Hello.
Very nice. And still we have here is who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Ah, yes, I see Artem Cherov is from company GRI.
Yes, hi everyone.
Yes. Okay. Yes, and we are waiting for two companies still is Kilometer and who is
Okay, Tatiana.
Yes.
So the timing on this, is it 1 hour or is it 1 hour and a half? Just, I want to make sure I have, just
Oh,
keep the flow.
Renat.
It
Tell
depends
us.
on your deck. So I mean, if
Okay,
you
so we'll
need,
see how
if you
we-
need, if you need a 1 hour and a half. So we put it the meeting first
Yeah.
1.5 hour, but it's like with gap, you know.
Okay, so I'm gonna invite all of you to do a little talking as well.
Friends, I can't see Kilometer online now. Yeah, I will send him some links for this conference because he hasn't one. And just for 1 minute, okay?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, guys, it's, I hope it will be a dialogue, so you can ask questions, you can talk. It's not like a lecture from the. So yeah, please be open to talk. Valuable for you.
Yes, in fact, I encourage that. You know what,
Oh, sorry.
as we,
Renat, sorry. Renat, can you please send a link to Telegram chat because I
Oh,
have
for sure.
one in
For
my.
sure.
Thank you.
so it's about 9 p.m. where you are right now, right, Tatiana?
Here we have one, yes, 9 p.m. And the day is already ended here, but your day just started.
I
Yes.
just got a sunrise in my window.
Yeah. And how's the
I'll-
weather? I was looking up the weather in Yakutsk.
Oh,
Yakutsk.
I will try to show you next time our weather outside, but now it's not possible. But it's winter. We have minus 31 degree.
Celsius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, minus
Yeah.
30 outside,
That's a
and
lot.
yes, and it's not a lot for us because it's warm weather. Getting cold. It's just getting cold because the coldest one would be ahead in January, December. It's about minus 60 degrees.
You must have
Yeah.
magic blood because I don't know. I would love to visit just to see what it's
Oh,
like.
you're
but
welcome. Welcome.
I would love it, but I think I would have to wear a lot of clothing, a lot.
It's no problem. I will give you a lot of clothes to wear warm on. And
You'll get it. You'll get a national.
I could barely, get through winter in New York City, and
So-
this would be like spring for you. Do we have our startup on?
Yes, Kilometer
Sorry?
is on board. Yeah. Waiting for someone else.
I see Sergey is here. Yes, the company name is Kilometer and founder Sergey is here. Sergey, just say hello. Are you here?
Hello, I'm here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Sergey.
So I will Kilometer to Tum Arvis Chirai. Somebody
Pocket Medic.
Pocket.
who is
Medic.
meeting that? Please help me. I cannot
Pocket
help
Medic.
the company.
Yeah.
because I don't know why. This is right. We have 5 companies here.
No, Pocket Medic is not here, I believe.
Ah, Pocket Medic is not here. Yes, thank you very much.
But-
I will,
yeah,
I
but-
will tell him, yes, you can start, but I will call him, okay?
Yeah, let's get started because yeah, we're like already out of time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, it's nice meeting everyone. And today we're going to talk about your 1-minute pitch. And so we were going to practice what you're going to be doing for Thursday. And I'm also going to be meeting you tomorrow. I believe it'll be morning for you, Thursday morning for you, so that we could go over your personal pitch and how you're going to pitch it during the pitch contest. But for today, we're going to go over just the basics of the pitch and give you some feedback on pitching because, so I'm going to give you a little background on who I am as well. And we'll get to chat about that. So I'm a communication coach here in New York City, but my focus is only international startups. So I work very closely with Starta and some other government organizations like the Italian Trade Commission or French business and French tech. So I basically help different startups come into the US, but I think about communication from different lenses and really try to help the founders with their pitch, answering questions, formulating a story, or even discussing the finer points of their startup, which is not always easy. So my background is I'm a speech pathologist, and I've also studied intercultural communication. I work with, like I said, several startups for many years, so I've gotten used to what people need. And I'm also an entrepreneur, so I know how difficult it is to have your own business, to go get clients, to try to keep things moving. So I understand how, this is not an easy thing today. Excuse me 1 second. Of course I choke. Okay. Today you're going to think about how to use your voice more powerfully. You're going to think about the elements of a pitch. And one of the most important things for the 1 minute is to learn how to be concise and simplify. So first we're going to go over a few main points. So this is the question I want to ask you. How do you want to be perceived when you're pitching? And you could type it in the chat, you could unmute. How do you want to be perceived? What are some words that come to your mind? Is it confident? Is it that you have a mastery of the topic? Is it friendly? What are some of the things that you think about when you're pitching or presenting?
I think the listening perception is the best option.
Okay, so when people are listening to you, you want them to explain that a little more.
I think it's all about the human perception of an information when the presentation comes on, and the main thing is to show the people a little more information on the board, and the main perception must be coming from the voice of the speaker, because physically is and technically is more easy to understand.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Artem, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anyone else want to share?
I think
Who's speaking? I cannot see you.
it's Alexander.
Alexander. Okay.
Yes. I think yes, voice is one of the main parts of the speech, but maybe some rhythm and some is important.
Okay.
too.
Right. I'm losing you a
And
little bit. There you are. Okay.
interest which you call in your, let's see, in people who listen you.
Okay. So that the people who are listening are interested in what you're saying. So how to engage them. Is that right?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. You're going in and out a little bit. Thank you. All right, so anyone else? All right, so one of the things we want to think about is how we think we sound and how we actually sound to the audience might be two different things. It could be our voice, it could be the words we choose, it could be how we're using our body language, it could be how much detail we're putting in. So we're going to touch on some of those things today. The first thing I'm going to ask, and this is just something for everybody, is so as we're preparing to pitch, one of the things that happens to a lot of the startups is they get a little nervous before they pitch. So you want to think about ways that you can calm yourself down. You know, it's really easy. This is something where, you know, these are your companies, your babies, you know, you're staying up at night and, you know, working on these. So when you pitch them out, you know, sometimes it can be, even the best speakers get a little bit nervous. Does anyone here, and you can put this in the chat, or you can share, does anyone ever feel a little bit nervous before they pitch, or do they know, you know, what happens to them before they pitch? Do you speak quickly? Do you tend to forget the words?
Even now, I'm a little bit nervous when I start to speak with my own voice, because I don't think it is a 100% working method to make this uncomplicated, I guess.
Thank you.
The main thing when you want to get not nervous is to know what are you talking about, and if you know your professional sphere very well and you can tell very good about the project or something, it is a way to tell a good speech, I think.
Yes, and I agree with this. I think that this is actually really important, that you, first of all, what I tell a lot of the startups, and especially when you're speaking in languages other than your own language. So if you're speaking in a second or a third language, you know, you really want to get to know the content. And that doesn't necessarily mean memorizing it, but you want to get really familiar with it. So even if you're memorizing in the beginning, you're memorizing it so that you can become more conversational with it. It's very stressful for a lot of the startups when they're starting out and they're speaking in a second language or a third language, and they don't have all the vocabulary. So what I always tell people too is when you're practicing your pitch, to maybe even find a few different ways to say it. And we're going to go over some of that, but, you know, find different vocabulary, maybe to say the same words, maybe say it just in a few different ways. So you start to become more flexible as you're practicing, so that when or if you get to a point where you feel a little nervous, then you can have a little bit of flexibility there. And it doesn't feel so strong when you forget a word, because you have other things that you can think of. Now, another thing is just to slow your system down. So, you know, we all get really excited or hyper before we present. You know, even the best speakers have a little bit of stress before they present. So slowing down your system, slowing down that part of the brain that's really just trying to protect you is also really important. So one way to do it is before you get up there or before you present on Thursday, you want to just take a quick inhale in, and you could actually take a long exhale out on S. Now it looks like this. And then, and if you do that a few times, it actually starts to slow down your system. What it actually does is activates a nerve called your vagus nerve. Now that is a nerve that comes from the brain, and it actually goes through your larynx, and it goes through other parts of the body too. And there's a lot of research on how to slow down and stimulate this nerve. Humming will do it as well. If you want to, you know, sit and just connect to your chest and you want to hum into your chest, it actually slows your body down. Obviously, you're not going to do this, you know, in a room full of people, but maybe before you start to get on a call, or maybe even, you know, if you're in person, you want to go in the bathroom for a second and just relax. You have to start to think about, how am I going to get my body to just slow down enough where I don't feel like I'm stressed out? The other thing I tell people is to start thinking about all the times you've been successful. So instead of just saying to yourself, oh, I could do this, this is fine, no problem, actually make a list of all the times that you've actually been successful as a speaker, whether it's small speaking situations, whether it's a presentation, and start to prove to yourself each time you pitch that you've been successful at it, you hit your points. And that actually really helps, because we have to believe our own stories. So if we're saying to ourselves, okay, I'm not that great of a speaker, I don't love doing this, our brain hears us and our body hears us, and we start to get more nervous. So we have to start thinking about all the times we've done it really well. The other thing that a lot of people do is they actually use some of those nerves and they transform it into excitement. So they say that nervousness and excitement happen in the same part of the brain. So how do you take that nervousness and make it seem like excitement, direct it at the audience? Actually tell yourself, okay, so I'm going to use this energy to direct it out to the audience. And that excitement will help get you through. Another thing that we were talking about, and we're going to go deeper into this during the sessions, is thinking about the style of your voice and the body language. So how you use volume is also, it's very cultural. In New York, you're going to see, and when you come to the US, you'll see that volume, people speak English with a bit of a louder volume. It's just how people use the language, especially in New York. New York tends to be a little loud. If you go anywhere in New York City, you go to a restaurant, you go to any kind of public space, it's going to feel loud. A lot of Europeans feel like, the States are loud, New York is loud. People from the US are loud, and they're kind of famous for this. So I'm not going to say they're not. But this is something that, as when you compare it to certain cultures, Russian culture, it's going to be a bit different. And you want to know, okay, how much volume do I actually need to get to where I have to be? So what I usually tell people is to think about volume on a 5-point scale. So the first being a whisper, and the fifth being yelling. Now, the second is more like this. You're talking like this, it's kind of soft. And usually what I say, this is like a confidential voice. This is usually the voice I use when maybe I'm talking to someone, but I don't necessarily need everybody to hear me. So that's a 2. A 3 is when you're going to get a little louder. Maybe when I'm talking to a group of you, but I'm not really presenting out in a pitch. A 4 is actually where you have to be when you're standing up in front of that room. Now, in order for you to play with this, in order for you to understand if you actually even get louder, I want you to record the first line of your pitch on a 2, and you don't have to do this now, on a 2, so a 2, a 3, and a 4. And why I want you to do this, it could be the first line of your pitch, it could be your name and your title. Hi, Artem, I'm the CEO of Serenity. Hi, I'm Artem, and I'm the CEO of Serenity. What happens to a lot of people is they do this. Hi, I'm Artem, and I'm the CEO of Serenity. Hi, I'm Artem, and I'm the CEO of Serenity. Hi, I'm Artem, and I'm the CEO of Serenity. So they say hi much louder, and then the rest gets really soft again. So the volume doesn't really change, and the voice doesn't really carry. So we have to figure out, first of all, are we actually using volume? Does it sound different? And how are we using it? Are we using it to give energy, excitement? Volume and energy go hand in hand. So when we talk about volume, there's going to be a lot of energy behind that volume. We could get the audience excited behind that volume. We want to think about tone. How are we answering questions? Here in the US, I was actually on a call last night, and it was with the Australian government. And interestingly, Australia and the US both speak English as a native language, but culturally it is different. And they were saying how some of the Australian founders had a hard time with some of the feedback they got from some of the investors or some of the panel members here in New York, because it was very direct. They wanted to know who their competitors were, what that looked like. And the directness of the question actually made people feel a little bit defensive. So their tone was, yeah, of course I do this. Yeah, of course. Why? It almost felt like they were being attacked a little bit. So you have to be careful when someone asks you these questions. What's your tone like? Is it coming off argumentative? Is it very sharp? Is it very direct? Can you soften your tone? How are you making eye contact? You know, eye contact is a politeness that in the US, you're going to make a bit more direct eye contact. That's a politeness. But I know, even from some of my Russian clients, that direct eye contact is not always a politeness, that people tend to look away a little bit more because direct eye contact, at least is what one of my clients told me, is not as typical. And it feels even a little more aggressive if I was sitting there and just looking like this the whole time. So he was averting his eye contact during our session, during our conversation, and it was more of a casual conversation, but he kept looking, away. And I thought it was a little strange, but he thought it was very normal. So you want to think about where you are and how people are using eye contact, facial expressions. Are you throwing in a smile once in a while? Not always the most cultural thing, right? People in the US sometimes are too smiley. And I think that, again, it's not the best for some of my European clients who are like, okay, so nobody's this happy all the time. Why are they smiling so much? But you do want to introduce yourself with a smile, and a real smile. Think about what smiles look like. And people could tell, obviously, if you have, well, people can't always tell, but they say a real smile, if you look at micro expressions, your eyes smile with your face. So, if you, oh, hi, my name is Lisa, and your eyes are moving, your face is moving, it feels a little more genuine than just kind of like that, hi, so when the mouth is just moving. Hand gestures are also important. If you're standing there and you're very stiff, you could feel that coming through even on Zoom. So on Zoom, they say you should even use some hand gestures on Zoom. As you're on video, use some expression. Let your hand gestures support what you say. So if you have 2 things or 3 things to talk about, if you're comparing this and this, let some hand gestures come through. And even on Zoom, it actually has to be a little bit more than you normally would do it because we don't have my voice is terrible this morning and I'm the voice person. Sorry. On Zoom, we don't have the nuances of body language. You're not with me in the room. So I actually have to give you a little more to keep you engaged. The next thing I want you to think about is as you're forming your story, as you're forming your pitch, you don't need to get so deep into the details. You want to be careful not to use really long sentences with too much information up front. So again, culturally, some people will want to put a lot of details up front. It also depends on your industry. How many details are you putting up front? Are you really building the story in the sense where first we did this, then we did this, and this is the end product. So, these are our credibilities, our PhDs, our credentials. This is, what we use to build the platform. So if you're getting deep into the details right up front, again, culturally here, we're going to be used to hearing more of a big picture. We also have to be careful of not using sentences that are too long. Why? Is because, first of all, it's easier for the audience to understand if you're giving it to them in little pieces of information. And we're going to practice that during our one-to-ones. It's going to make it easier to follow. And the brain actually will stop working if there's too much information and it can't follow it. You'll lose people faster. So there's, like someone said, a rhythm to the information. Like when I give a phone number here in the US, it's 917-555-6543. And think about when you give a phone number or a number, there is a rhythm to this. There's a rhythm because this is how the brain remembers it. And the brain has that rhythm in mind, so it's easier to remember. It's like music. So when we think about, as you're writing your pitch, being careful of too much jargon if you're going to use, let's say, your elevator pitch. If you have your clients or customers, oops, not doing so great this morning. If you have your clients or customers and they're really familiar with your industry, okay, you could use some of that industry jargon. If you're doing medical or if you have a complicated platform and you want to get a little more into it with your clients and customers because they're from that sector, that's great. But with investors, or even when you're doing your 1 minute, you want to be careful not to use too much jargon, too many expressions that people might not understand. You don't want to lose people. So you want to make sure that you're giving them the information without saying the same thing over and over again. You want to make sure that you're not saying, you're stating a very clear problem, a very clear solution, but you're not repeating yourself over and over and using that language. So now I'm going to ask you, can you break down what you do for now into one sentence? Can you introduce you and your company? We do this in just one sentence. And it's not easy to do it. So I want everybody to try it. So you're not being spared on this one. Tell me who you are, what you do in one sentence, or try it at least.
I'll try first. So
Okay.
our company is developing a virtual communication space for people.
All right. So you're developing, and introduce yourself. So hi, I'm Artem.
Hi, I'm Artem, and I'm CTO of Serenity. Our company is developing the virtual communication space for people.
All right. So a virtual communication space for people. And I'm dying to hear more about this. All right. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Give it a try.
Okay. I'm Alexander. I'm CEO in Arvis. Arvis, it is our service which provide simple constructor and scanner for augmented reality.
All right. So just give me the key points again. It's a simple, tell me just one more time because I'm going to write it down. It's a
simple constructor and scanner for augmented reality.
okay. So it's a simple constructor and scanner for augmented reality.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to go back to you for a moment. Artem, you said it's a virtual communication space for people to do what? Are they talking? Are they messaging? What are they doing in that virtual communication space?
Help people.
To help people communicate with each
Give me
other?
a second.
Okay.
Yes. So we help in this period. We help the bloggers monetize their audience and reach their fans, so they can keep in touch with the blogger.
Okay. So it's really for bloggers. That's your target audience right now.
It's one of the secondary
Okay.
parts of our product. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, let's try.
Let's try it.
My name is Sergey Baishov. I'm introducing the Skillender project. We reduce the cost of attracting specialists with high potential from internships to hiring. We work with universities and industrial ventures, providing an educational platform with the system of employment based on machine learning.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And so for that one, I mean, if I was to say, we'll even make it a bit smaller, we'll break it down a little bit more. So the two people you're really trying to connect high performing talent with employers. Is that correct? Or did I get that wrong? Say it again. You're on mute. There you are.
I'm sorry, please repeat the question.
So I just want to make sure I have the two groups right. You're connecting high performing talent with companies, or tell me who you're connecting again.
We're developing a system of educational tracks system based on machine learning, and this system helps students to choose a profession and vacancies of real vacancies on employment marketing.
Okay. So basically, yes. you're helping students choose a profession where there's basically a high need, right? So you're helping them
high need.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that you're
this system based on machine learning, but based on big data.
Okay.
This big data helps to determine more often often skills on each profession.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So basically you're real, okay. And we're gonna get more into this when I coach you on our own as well, because I'm gonna see you all tomorrow, but I want you to start to think about, again, it's not easy to break this down into one sentence. It's not easy to create a 1-minute pitch. So we want to think about how we're doing it, how we're hitting the key points. Does anyone else want to give it a try? Before we-
Hello, I'm
Hi.
sorry to bother you. I'm from Skillometer 2. I'm a project manager. And I would say that Skillometer is a platform for improving your skills and finding a job using artificial intelligence.
Ah, okay. So
Yeah.
we're both from Skillometer. Okay, so Diana and Sergey, you
we
work
are both
together.
from
Okay,
Skillometer, and I'm a project manager of this.
okay. That was great. Thank you.
Okay.
No, and I'm glad that you came in too, because you told it to me from a different angle. So I appreciate that. Anyone else want to try before we move on?
Hi,
All right. Hi,
Uh,
there you are.
my name is Leonid Klarov, and I'm from Pocket Medic. Pocket Medic, it's about connection between doctors and patients.
All right. So it's about the connection between doctors and patients. And we're going to explore a little bit of that as well. Thank you. So it's Leonid, right? Say your same name?
Yes.
Say
Leonid.
it again.
Yes.
Leonid. Okay, Leonid. Leonid. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Again, why we're doing this is because it's really, it's yes. Do I hear, are you going to do it? No? Okay, someone popped on, but I thought they were going to speak. And we're going to be training a lot on this. So as we think about different pitches, right now we're going to really focus on an elevator pitch. What is an elevator pitch? It's meant to get people interested. It's meant to, when you're in a conversation, when you're meeting someone, this is not getting deep into the details. This is not your investor pitch where you're going to have a lot of financials in there. This is the basics. This is, how you're going to get someone interested and why are they going to keep listening? Why are they going to ask you some questions? So your elevator pitch is going to be about 1 minute. And some of the elements that are typical are a hook. And we're going to see if we could build a hook, the problem you're solving, the solution, and this should be really clear. And usually the problem is stated somewhere in that little story that you're going to tell. Then you want to have a clear solution. Do we understand the solution? Maybe if you want to talk about some competitors you have and why you're different, and maybe a little bit about your team and your ask, depending on how much time we have and who you're speaking with. Now, I'm going to go over this a little bit more. So a hook is something that is very typical in the US. It's used as a little story, and it's meant to trigger emotions. So when you think about the audience, you see a lot of people, do this in different ways. So sometimes people will get people to, okay, please, raise your hands if you've ever done this. Raise your hands if you've ever had trouble finding a job. Raise your hands if you've ever had a difficult time finding a new physician, so they'll raise their hands. The next thing is maybe you'll tell a story, and it's the impact on society, businesses, productivity, relationships. So your story should have some kind of an impact. This is what happened to me. This is my personal story. And then you're going to, if you can, if you're thinking about like the people sitting in front of you, maybe some of those questions could be specific to the audience. So the questions, if you ask someone or you want to start to think of a story, it should trigger emotions. And maybe if you know who's sitting in front of you, you could think of like, okay, it's New York City. Maybe the question could be more New York geared, or in the medical industry, you want to maybe ask a question that has more to do with medical. But But for general audiences, keep it broad, keep it easy so that people can engage. So what is a hook or a story? Now, these are things that, so here again, you're going to hear people talk about personal stories. You're going to, so for all of you, if you want to start to think about in your 1 minute pitch, what was the personal pain that you're solving? Why did you start this company? Was it that you personally had a difficult time finding a physician, finding a job? Is it that right now in Russia, it is very difficult, or right now in Europe, or right now in the world, it's very difficult, to understand what to study and what vacancies there are. So maybe you study for many years, but yet you're getting out of school and there's not many vacancies. You're not really even working in your industry. This is very frustrating. So we help people do this better. So stating that pain in the story is something that helps people really understand what it is that you're solving. When you put it into the form of a story and you give people some things to think about, they're also going to remember it a little easier. So we remember stories. We remember stories that we hear. We remember stories that we tell, and we can retell them. So we can't always remember facts and figures because it's a little harder, but stories trigger emotion in us. So those emotions might connect to us. We might find ourselves having that same problem as your startup. Another thing that people use is statistics. These are real statistics, but let's say according to the National Health Institute, an estimated 300,000 deaths per year are due to the obesity epidemic in the US. So 300,000 deaths per year. You want people to think about this. Maybe you have a med tech solution that is working on diabetes or obesity. The adult obesity rate stands at 42.4%. So maybe you're giving a number or a percentage. For the first time, the national rate has passed the 40% mark. So this is based on the national adult obesity rate. The national obesity rate has increased 26% since 2008. You wouldn't have to put all of these, but giving some numbers, giving some facts, quoting where you got the facts is also very helpful if you want to craft a story that has some impact. So depending on how you want to start, if you want to use a little hook and use a personal pain or a backstory, or you want to create, people create stories all the time. They make them up. They say, okay, this is my friend, whomever, and they use a story. We have a startup right now, and he's from Africa, and he is creating a co-funding platform to build housing in Africa. And he actually used a story in a great way. He actually introduced a friend of his and told the story of his friend. This friend who's a middle income earner who can never really build his own home, even though he has the means to do it because there's a lack of funding for middle income earners in this part of Africa. Now, because of that, that story actually triggers some emotion, and it also makes it easy to understand for a large range of audiences. So you want to start to think about what's the problem your company or your platform is solving. And this should be super, super clear. There has to be a clear problem. So I have to understand it, and I shouldn't have to look for it. So right up front, you're introducing yourself, you're introducing your company, and right up at the top there, you're saying, okay, so, did you ever feel this? And this is the problem we're solving. And this is how we're solving it. This is why we've created our company. And this is how we do it. So we're creating the solution to this problem. Now, is it a big problem? Do you think a lot of people have this problem? Is there a big market for this problem? Maybe, 25% of the people worldwide suffer from this problem. Maybe it's that, people are doing, more interactions online, and it's going to continue growing. And this is the pain of doing this. What's the scale of the problem? Is it a big problem? Do we care about the problem? And, how are you going to solve it? Now, this is where, it can vary, but sometimes you want to start to think about, understanding your market. And it's very important that you understand who's out there and who does something similar to what you do. So we're going to go over this a little more, but one of the things that we are very careful of is telling the audience that there's no competitors. You're the first one to ever do it. even if it's true, even if you have a very unique product, there's someone doing something similar somewhere. And the thing is, as you're launching, especially into the US, there's going to be possibly competitors that you weren't sure of, or maybe you never heard of before. Those are the competitors that I want you to start to research, because you will get questions about these things. When you're sitting there and you get to Q&A, you might get questions that you don't expect. And again, going back to the tone, if someone puts you in a position to answer a question that you didn't expect, or it feels a little like they're on the attack. And I've seen people in panels and people asking Q&A, investors or judges in the pitch contest ask these questions. Well, didn't you know about this company? How about this company? Aren't they doing something similar to you? You can handle it in a way with, okay, you know what? I didn't know that they were in the market, or yes, I have heard of them, but we're different because. And really, it's those small differences. Why are you doing it different? Why are you doing it better? How is it what you're doing, maybe building on what they did before? You don't want to bash. You don't want to, say, okay, their product is terrible, or, make them seem like your competitors seem like they're not doing it well. But what you could say is, this is how we're different. This is how we're better. And it's important that people know your market, but you are doing something very different, and this is how you're creating a differentiator. So for you, thinking about a little story, I want you to try what your own personal story will be. So I know you all introduced yourselves. I know that you were telling me a little bit about your company in one line. Is there a story? Is there any kind of story that you can use as to why you created this company? Maybe a backstory. And maybe we could just talk about it right now instead of, you're pitching it. But was there a story that was behind why you decided to solve that problem? So for any of you, for Artem, or any of you that answered, Diana, Leonid, is there a story behind it? Why did you decide to solve this problem? What was it? Or is there a statistic out there, something that, what's happening in the world that made you think about solving this?
I'll try.
Okay.
Hope you don't mind.
No, I'm very happy about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So all you remember the old times when you just go out the street and meet a neighbor and do a handshake, or maybe I was tired of these video black screens on Zoom. So maybe you could try our platform to meet each other in the virtual space, make a communication, new connections.
So let's build on that for a second. So who here, or maybe, after the pandemic, we've all gotten a little tired of looking at little black boxes, right? Yes. And maybe we still can't actually meet in the same room, or maybe we're far away. The pandemic did one thing. It made us much more global. So now we're talking, I'm sitting here in Brooklyn, New York. You're in Yakutsk. Yeah. We're very far from each other, but I feel like you're sitting here with me. So, but unfortunately, we can't be in the same room right now. And I wish we could. But since we can't, this is where you come in to help us meet in this virtual space. Why is it better than doing what we're doing right now? Why is it better than Zoom?
So it's very correct question, I guess, because you can meet each other like in real life. So the sound goes exactly with the same physical aspects like in real life. If you get far away from another person, the sound goes off. And you get closer and the sound is the volume getting higher like this. It's for example.
Okay, and how does that's actually very interesting. I'm going to be, especially as a communication person, this is very interesting for me. But so you're saying, like, if I leaned in, you're going to hear me louder than if I pull out like this. Like it's almost as if, okay, all right. And why did you create it that way?
So we're all tired of sitting in lockdown, and we wanted to create something a little more bigger than another social networking platform. Mm-hmm. So people can meet each other and interact like in real life, doing the fancy dances or cheer ups and handshakes or something. like this.
Okay, I like, oh yeah, and I've seen lots
Yes.
of those too, that's great. All right, thank you very much, and we're gonna shape
you.
that. So this is a real pain that we're all tired of lockdown. We have a limited amount of ways to interact right now. And a lot of the times it does come down to these little black boxes or something that feels kind of fake, you know? So how do we make ourselves feel like we're in the same room, even if we can't be? So then we're gonna maybe like build on some of that. And this is great. Thank you so much for volunteering, because it's not
Thank you.
easy to do this. All right, someone else, do you want to give it a try? You know, what is the story behind why you did what you did?
Okay, let me try.
All right, who am I
Um,
talking to?
Previously, we were engaged in offline education in the field of information technology.
Okay.
And leading a business gradually came to the understanding that some things need to be automated. In particular, how to properly navigate the stacks of technology, how to correctly build a learning trajectory, and it was before pandemic, and last year when pandemic came, we start to develop a platform for the distance education.
Mhm. Can
with,
you tell me your name again? Can you tell me your name?
What?
Your name, your name. I'm trying to
Ah,
find you.
Sergey.
It is Sergey. Okay, it is. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure it was you. Okay, so you during the pandemic. So before the pandemic, just tell me quickly again, what did it look like before the pandemic? And then what happened during the pandemic? So let's try to break it up. So before the pandemic, it looked like this.
Yes, before the pandemic, we tried to have to develop a correctly built learning trajectory
Mhm.
and properly navigate on the stack of technology.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when the pandemic came, we start to develop a platform for the distance education
Mhm.
with this system of based on machine learning.
Okay, why do we need this? Why do we need this right now? Why is
Right
it
now,
important?
on the pandemic, more people not have not a job, and we help them to choose correct profession and to work on the correct profession.
Okay, so that's perfect, because as I'm thinking about this, this is where it becomes really painful, right? The pandemic has caused many, many people to lose their jobs. It's also caused many professions to change. So I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste time studying a field that isn't going to have job openings. You know, I don't have that kind of time. It's a luxury to do that. And right now, what you're doing is helping people really study the things that have a large amount of openings, and you're helping them connect to those fields. And we're going to talk about how you're doing that. But, you know, we could really shape this as, you know, a pain that came through the pandemic. It's gotten worse through the pandemic, I should say, and how you're helping people, you know, make sure that they're targeting the right areas for them to become employed, instead of just choosing things that are at random. Thank you very much. I appreciate your sharing.
Thank you very much for understanding.
Oh, and
my
I'm
bad
looking forward to
English.
talking. No. And I do this. This is what I love. This is my job. So it is to work with people who are speaking, you know, different language backgrounds, and to help people who are using English as a business background. So please never apologize for that. It's I actually admire every single one of you for being on here and speaking. It's very hard to pitch, and then pitching in a new language is also 10 times more difficult. So I really admire that you're all doing this. So thank you. Okay, anyone else? One more person. Give me your story.
Yes, I want to try.
Okay.
When I first have met with augmented reality, I watched some videos, and I said to myself that it's wow, it's the future, it's our future, and I understood that everybody in the future will use augmented reality. But at the same time, I've noticed that nowadays, augmented reality, it's only some wow effect with 3D and some 3D models. It's only some entertainment. It's not useful thing at most times. And but in myself, I felt that augmented reality can be useful. It can bring some information from one people to some another people, and with that idea, we started to develop our augmented constructor to make augmented reality useful and to provide availability to some ordinary people to make it easier than now, because now it's for most people it's extremely difficult to make some augmented reality. But we want to make availability to make it easily and make it useful.
Okay, and useful for what? Like, give me one example that regular people could use AI for what?
Just to send some additional information from one people to another. For example, you get just small flyer or VC, and you can scan it with our application, and you will see some additional information, some video about you or your company, some additional text, some links to the site, some buttons to make order.
Okay, so basically you decided to do this. Thank you very much. You decided to do this because you were watching many years ago AI, you thought it was amazing. And
Yes.
But you know, you're a tech person, you understand it a lot more. And what you saw is, and people will say this, you know, I hear it in pitch contests or judges say all the time, okay, so AI, you know, what is it really used for? How are you using the AI? Because everybody says they're using AI for something. So, you know, what you were saying is, you know, people were using it to watch videos or in a way that it wasn't useful for everyday people, or maybe it was just too complex. So what you're doing is you're bringing AI to everyday people and you're helping them use it to scan information and then we're going to make sure like that it's very clear. So, you know, your story is that you understood it, you were able to use it, but you wanted other people to be able to do this too. And the way it's being used now, it's not easy. So how can we make it easier for people? Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we're going to play with that. Thank you. This is good. So this is what I want everybody to start thinking about, is what your backstory is. And you're going to actually include this a little bit into your 1 minute pitch. You know, I want people to engage with you, to get to know you and remember you. You know, you have 1 minute. Again, this is really just to touch on some of what's happening. You're, you know, a tiny bit of like 1 or 2 lines of your story, the problem that you're solving, the solution, and a little bit possibly about, you know, what's out there, the market, why people need it. And if there's an ask at the end that you're looking for partners or funding or whatever it is that you're looking for, we'll talk about that as well. But in the beginning, we're just going to design this. So thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else want to try before I move on to the next?
Yes, I want to try.
All right. Thank you.
This story about me, about my patients. about me and about my colleagues. And we really worried about our patients. And in my case, I'm a radiologist, and after our examination, they have contrast enhancement, and patients after examination, they go away and we didn't see them again. And it's about our pain. So we tried. Our pain is about the follow up our patients. We need some application to see their condition in follow up. So it's not about only radiologists. It's about some other cardiologists or neurologists, and they also want to do some follow up after the treatment. So, and very different people have some very different condition in different drugs that they have. Sorry about my English.
No, I think this is great. Okay, go ahead.
That's
I'm
all.
sorry. Okay, so this is really interesting. Now you're coming from, first of all, you're a specialist. You know, you are a radiologist and you see the pain. Now we're thinking about, okay, so this person who's telling us this, he knows it because he works in this every single day. Now, what you're seeing is that you do the exam, or, you know, you run the tests, and now people don't come back. And maybe we could even think about why, you know, why the lack of follow-up? You know, why do you think people don't come back? It could be money, it could be time, it could be just, you know, but what's now, and we want to think about, because they don't come back, what could happen? Maybe maybe you found a small tumor and it could get worse because they decided not to treat it. Maybe a cardiologist could find something atypical in the heart, something not, you know, that needs to be treated, maybe not immediately, but now the person disappears. So how do physicians, how do doctors, how do radiologists and cardiologists help keep track of their patients and also make it easier for the patients to come back? So I think this is amazing because you'll have your specialty in there. You're going to talk about your pain, and we want to just make sure you add what's the impact of that pain, because they don't come back. You know, they have a higher rate of death, illness. You know, for you, is there, you know, something that could happen? You lose track of your patients. You can't help them. 5 years later, they show back up and now, you know, they're very, very sick, and that could have been prevented. Something that we want to think about, you know, what's the impact, and then how are you solving it? Okay. All right. So think about that. And then when we do it tomorrow, I will really shape it. But what I want everybody to do is craft a piece of your story so that when we work tomorrow, we could really refine it. And what I'll help you do is, if you want, you could even email it to me. I'll give you my emails, or we could do it on Telegram. You know, if you want to send me, you know, how you're writing out the story as before we practice it tomorrow, you can do that as well. So I invite you all to do that. Do you want to say something, Leonid? I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, so I think this is very important for us to start to think about. Now, of course, we're going to think about, you know, other things like, you know, who your competitors are, going back to, you know, saying there's no direct competitors, or there are no competitors is something that you have to be very careful of, because people say this is a huge red flag, you know, when you're pitching out your company. So it could be indirect. It could be people who just do something similar, but not the same. Also, making sure that people understand how you're different is very, very important. You know, we have maybe some indirect competitors, they're not the same, or we have some direct competitors, but we're different because. Be really clear on why you're different than what's out there right now, how it's impacting, you know, people, how you can help in a different way. Oops. This is one that sometimes people get caught up in. This is what I was talking about before. You know, sometimes people have the team right up front in their deck. So they'll talk about who they are, and then they'll introduce their team, maybe 1 or 2 slides in. Typically in the US, what you're going to see is the team slide is going to be at the end. If you can even put it in a 1-minute pitch, we'll see, you know, how much you're going to put in there. But if you do talk about your team, you could just have a quick slide. Or if you're going to talk about it, you could say, you know, we're a team of specialists that have been working together. We're specialists in the field of radiology. We're a team of business developers and programmers who've been working together for 5 years. So really quick on the team slide or on the team, when you talk about your team for the 1 minute pitch, and even when you break it up into like, let's say your 3 minute pitch, which will be next, you know, a little bit about the team. You don't need to go into all the credentials of each team member so deeply, even though it's something that is more typical in a lot of the European countries, that you really want to make sure that, you know, we have specialists, this is their backgrounds. In the US, we want to know this, but it's not going to come first. And the other thing that I think is important here is that unless someone is real, like, unless you have a real, a specialist on there where you really need to discuss that they're on your team, again, you don't have to go into every detail of their background, their education, all of this. The other thing is that you want to have an ask. So what is it that you want from this pitch? Are you looking to raise money? You know, some people are very, it is cultural, you know, not to sometimes ask for money right up front, or sometimes it is. People will ask you, what are you asking for? Are you asking for partners? Are you asking for mentors? Are you asking for new clients, to meet people, to build your network? It could be as simple as that. So these are things that in your 1 minute pitch, you're probably going to hear a little bit about, you know, a little bit of the story, how you're solving it, you know, if it's a very competitive market, who you are. And people want to also know that you've known each other for a little while, how you get along, you know, so this is something that you'll probably answer more in Q&A, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. These are things that you're going to think about later on. If you happen to have, if you have traction, that's great. You're going to report out on, you know, the amount of traction you have. If you don't have traction, what a lot of people will say is, you know, these are our partners and advisors. These are, you know, the amount of downloads we've had. Your business model should be pretty clear. And this is in your 3 minute pitch that's going to be coming up. Your 1 minute pitch, you could put, you know, we're a SaaS solution, or we're a direct, you know, we're doing direct sales right now, focused on the B2B market or something like that. But again, we're going to, sorry, I'm just taking a note here. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. This 1 minute pitch, you don't have to go as deep into this, but it is really important that you have a really clear idea of, and it's, if you have different models, it becomes a little more tricky, right? Like if you're B2B and then B2C, you know, so how are you reporting out on those two different markets? If you have traction, you know, how are you reporting your traction? So things like that, where it could get a little more tricky. And once you start reporting numbers, you want to make that, again, really clear as well. The next thing I would say is to be careful on how you're preparing Q&A. So Q&A is going to be just as important for you as preparing your pitch. So what I would say is start to think about the questions you're going to get. People are going to want to know what's the market size? Tell me more about how you're different from what's out there. They're going to ask you a variety of questions. They're going to ask you your business model. They're going to want to know, you know, how you get customers. They're going to want to know, you know, how you're attracting people right now to your platform. They're going to ask you about your technology. You know, if you're using AI, if you say you're using AI, you know, that's one that people will ask about. You know, how are you using AI? How are you using the technology to make things better? What I usually tell people is to create a list of questions that you typically get. Now, there's questions that a lot of people get. There's questions that, you know, is this a growing market? How are you going to address the market? You know, what does your sales pipeline look like? Start writing down the questions and bullet out the answers. So under each question, I want you to think about the answers that you're going to give. You want to be able to give these answers fairly quickly. Same thing. You want to make it concise. You want to make sure you're not going on and on. One of the things that happens in pitch contests a lot of the times is you could give a pitch in 1 minute, but then when you have to explain is when it gets difficult. So you want to make sure you're actually answering the question. And you want to see how long it takes you. So as you practice answering a question, see how long it takes. So time yourself. I would say record yourself as well. You know, practice answering different questions in different ways. But when you listen to yourself, you want to ask yourself, did I actually answer this question? Or is it something that, you know, I kind of skated around the answer? I didn't really get to the answer I want. Remember when we were talking about what we said before, perception. You know, how am I answering this question? Do I think I sound a certain way? Do I think I'm saying a certain thing? But you know what, the audience really didn't get that. And let's figure out why. Why didn't they really understand what I was doing? And maybe we have to look at your pitch as well. You know, is there a part of the pitch where we really just don't understand the problem you're solving? That's another thing that I'll hear, is that someone will make a pitch and then the questions will be, well, you know what, can you explain the problem a little more? That's why the story and the problem need to be really clear. You know, again, what's the impact of this problem? How does it affect people? How is it that, why is it that I'm going to use your platform, your app? Why am I going to download right now, you know, your app? What do I need it for? And is it going to change? How is it going to change things for me? Is it going to make my life easier? Is it going to make a doctor's life easier? Whoever the user is, whoever your target audience, how does it help them? You know, we've had people, you know, do everything from more complex apps in fintech, you know, financial apps that help you track spending for larger companies through financial reports that they normally wouldn't get. But we've also had people develop platforms that were as simple as, we had someone do a baby cam once, and it was, you know, a founder who, he developed a camera that actually was able to tell the parents when the baby was crying, you know, how long the baby was alone, because it was a sensor in the room. And so the parents would get this information on their phone. Now, who did this matter to? Obviously, it mattered to new parents. It made an impact for new parents because they wanted to know, you know, how their baby was being treated. It was a little bit more in depth than a typical camera, and it gave them reports and updates throughout the day. So, you know, how is it impacting? So there's another one that people use, I believe it's, you know, like, who are you? Why us and why now? So why should I invest in you? So what are you, it's what are we doing? Why us and why now? So why us? Why you? Why am I going to invest in you? Why is it, what makes you, again, different, special? And why now? Why is it important now? You know, think about that message, because it's after the pandemic, and this is what we need more than ever. Things have changed because in the medical industry, more people are dying from this than they ever were before. You know, why now? Why is it important now? All right. Another thing I would suggest is, as you craft your pitch, from a marketing perspective, you know, you're going to want it to sound, you know, so you'll hear the term sexy in the US a lot, but, you know, it's a pitch that has, you know, a lot of fancy language, and it's very, you know, it's just said in a certain way where it might not be so comfortable. What I usually tell people is write the pitch, but then say it out loud. See how it feels to actually say these sentences. If at all you feel like it's not comfortable to say those words, change the word. Don't try to say the word over and over again, change the word. Do not put yourself in a situation where it's stressful to say your pitch or any part of your pitch, because then what's going to happen is you're not going to want to say it. You're going to get to a point where it's going to make you nervous. It has to flow. As you're speaking it out loud, it has to be easy. It has to be words that are easy to say. You know, again, you're all pitching to global audiences. So the simplest form of the language is the best, because it doesn't need to be loaded with expressions and jargons, and it just simple and clean language. So people across the world, coming from all different language backgrounds, are going to have an easy time understanding it. You're going to have an easy time saying it, and it's going to be comfortable. It's your words. So this is where we're going to get into matching your voice, matching your tone to the words you say. So when we think about it, when we go back to that slide, now you crafted your story. Now you've talked about your problem and your solution. You know, how is it, what we were talking about before, is that how is your voice and your emotions actually matching that? Are they matching it? You know, are you talking about a really important problem, but you're really flat? And, you know, this is a very important problem, and you know, 30% of the people die from this, but you have no facial expression whatsoever. There's no urgency in that. So we want to feel some of your personality. We want to start to think about getting your voice behind these words. And that's why it's important to use words that you normally would use. So you want to start to think about your voice. How, was it engaging? Was there differences in pitch and intonation? So what I tell people is, especially when you're coming from certain language backgrounds to English, Russian is one of them. When it translates over, the music is different. It just is. So because of that, think about where you're emphasizing. Is there a little bit of a difference in pitch? So if I read this sentence to you, was your voice engaging? Was your voice engaging? I don't say, was your voice engaging? I actually move the pitch around. I emphasize key words. When you're writing out your pitch, bold out those words as you're practicing. Make sure that you can, put a little contrast in there. Why? Because it's easier to follow. Our brain, going back to variety, going back to breaking things up into little chunks, breaking things up into thoughts, our brain likes variety. If it sounds too similar, we're going to lose the person. So does the words and your voice match? And is this what you wanted it to sound like? So as you record yourselves, as you listen to yourself, is this what you want to sound like? Going back to what you thought about in the beginning of this little workshop, what is it that you want to sound like? Do you want to sound confident? Do you want to sound warm? Do you want to sound friendly? Do you want to sound like you are the authority? Is this what you think you sound like? And how do we get you there? You also want to think about, is your message clear? Are the emotions balanced with numbers and clear points? So you're telling a little story. You're also giving some facts. There's some numbers, there's some clear points. So you're balancing your pitch. Do you think that your audience can remember your key points? Are they very clear? We're doing this, this, and this. It's very easy to understand. I don't have to look and search for what you're solving. I don't have to think about, okay, what was he doing? What was she doing? Oh, okay, yes, this was it. I think they said this. We want to make it super clear. We're doing this, and we're doing this. And we're going to practice this when we meet tomorrow. So this is my email, Lisa at c3speech.com. That's a dot. There's no dot there. There's a little typo. Okay, so you could link in with me. You can email me if you want to practice. If you want to send me a part of your pitch, your story, to get ready for our sessions tomorrow. You could make a recording. You're welcome to do that so we could get ready. Now, I want to find out before we wrap up, does anyone have any questions from this session? Is there anything you want to add before we end the session?
Yes, I have two questions.
Sure.
First, you said that we can prepare a speech before tomorrow meeting and send you. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And the second one, where we can find time of the tomorrow meeting.
I think that was scheduled already.
It's a question for me.
It's maybe yes. It's maybe for Renat.
It's in it's in the calendar. You can find it. It's an appointment meeting. I'll show you later. But where are you located?
Okay.
You're in Yakutsk or in Moscow time zone?
It's Moscow time, Nizhny Novgorod.
It will be quite hard for you, but Lisa, you had a request for maybe split some slots, right?
Well, I'm going to keep it because you had mentioned that, so I don't want to.
So the guys who's in Moscow's time zone, they better to maybe move it all because it will be late night for them or early morning, I would say.
What time is it in Moscow right now?
Like 3:14 p.m.
Okay, let me see what I could do. How many people do we have in Moscow? How many?
Moscow too, yeah.
We have two companies stayed in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. Yes, by Moscow time.
Let me see what I could do. Renat, I'm gonna coordinate with Renat. As long as it's before Thursday, I'll make sure that I'll figure it out. I will figure it out. Renat, I'll talk to you later today about this and I'll see how I can possibly split it.
But guys, let me show you, where is it?
Yes, I would like to tell that we all our schedules, we have a Notion platform and you have it in your calendars, Google Calendar.
It's better It's better in calendar, do it in calendar, yes. Oh,
Александр, у тебя Google календарь же есть? Там все расписание есть заранее на все недели.
So do you see, Alexander, do you see that? So it's Wednesday, it's in New York time. So it's Thursday night by your time. So it says one-on-one sessions. You go there, go to appointment page, and you can choose the appointment. All the startups, not only you, I mean, all the startups can book an appointment. For example, I just click here, will be my name. You can put the company name as well. It will be easy for Lisa. And just save. So she will see that your like slot is booked.
And I'm going to try to see, maybe I could do some tomorrow morning, and then for the founders in Moscow, and then the rest tomorrow in the evening. So let me just see what I could work out. Okay.
Okay,
I'll be in touch with you, Renat.
Yeah, okay, we'll coordinate it.
I think
But
that
the
everybody can book time just now, so we can see now which company at what time it will be. If you have possibility, please try to book the time for your company on Wednesday.
Lisa, if we will move some companies like for like tomorrow morning, is it easier to you to go back to back with sessions in the evening, or you need some splits?
No, I don't have to. I don't need a split. So
guys,
I go all day at
choose...
Stardust, though. But when
no,
I mean, what I was thinking of. Oh, okay.
Because if they make, for example, sorry, yeah, keep going.
It's okay. No, I just think that, so there'll be 3 companies in the evening. Maybe I'll try to do 2 in the morning. So let me just see what 2 times I do it, and then for the 2 Moscow founders, and then I'll do the rest in the evening. So maybe what I could do, Renat, is let me just look at my calendar for a sec.
Да, sorry, Lisa, I will say it in Russian. Ребята, бронируйте подряд те, кто в якутской тайм-зоне. Бронируйте подряд, чтобы не было перерыва, чтобы не было у Лизы, что ей пришлось бы в 7:30, потом еще в 9:30, ну, чтобы не было разрыва. So, yeah.
Да, я попросила ребята сейчас попробовать забронировать, чтобы было видно, что вы там понимаете, куда заходить и как бронировать.
Okay. So one session was booked. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just see. But let me just try to work out something for
one.
the Moscow guys. So
Is-
what if I do, tomorrow's Wednesday. What if I,
for us,
How about-
5:30 is okay, and 5 a.m. is okay too. It's no problem.
really?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
We can leave it like that if you're okay with that, Lisa.
I'm okay with that. Otherwise, I could do it maybe at 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning to make it easier for them before I head out.
So yeah, if Lisa will have any extra slots, I will add them to the calendar. You will see them as well, everyone.
Great, thanks.
And you can.
Okay,
you can choose.
one more question. Sorry. One more question from me. You have said that companies can send you to your email or somewhere in LinkedIn their speeches, but we have Notion platform, Renat. Can Lisa have? Do Lisa
Oh,
have,
yes. Yeah, Lisa.
Yes.
Lisa, you usually have access to workspaces of the startups, right?
I do have the Starta access. I don't know about the.
Yeah. So we got. I've made a workspaces for all the companies from this bootcamp. So actually, they can like upload it to their workspaces in Notion.
Where is it going to be in Notion? Can you send me the?
Yeah.
Do I have the access to it?
I think so.
I mean, I'm looking. I mean, right now I'm in Startas, but it says individual workspaces. I don't see.
You have
this
full
program.
access.
Okay. All right, I just don't see this program.
Okay, okay.
I'll show it to you, if you want when we get off. Oh, I see, you just sent it. Okay.
Mhm.
Maybe someone can try to send some words in these workspaces, and so we can assure that Lisa can see it. But just now, someone from companies who's here. Arvis, Alexander, could you write something in your private, in your room? I mean, in Notion.
I will